folks, and welcome to another scintillating time with us this morning. Today, we have an interesting talk, and at this time, we are going to speak to the wonderful Hattie about her journey within Quakers and initially, perhaps, why Quakers?
What, perhaps what?
Why Quakers?
Ah, right, okay.
You see, there you go.
Hmm.
Questions. I will let then my friend and colleague, Patsy, speak first.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I was thinking perhaps we could take it in turns if that's okay. It might be a bit more interesting for people. Hattie, so many questions I'd like to ask you. I barely know where to start, but I think the one I'm going to start with is what made you decide you wanted to be a GP? Because I suspect there could be some connection between the two things. I'm sure you're right. I mean, when I was 7, I wanted to be a poet or a nun. And then when I was about 8 or 9, I think I had a table sale at home, a coffee morning to raise funds for Oxfam. So I think I was pretty much into, oh yes, helping other people. I think that was
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah.
Mum was a magistrate, so there was that. I had an uncle who was a vicar, and he and his wife had spent time in Africa working, so there was that sort of giving and helping other people background. And being a GP, I was taught, luckily, by extremely good people. And one of the mantras was, there's two people in the room: the person who's expert in their bodies and their experiences, and the person who's expert in medicine. So, respect. You've both got stories to tell about how you came to be in that room at that moment. Um, and I really enjoyed general practice, and I watched very good doctors practice both in hospitals and one particular psychiatrist was just gobsmackingly wonderful. First time he'd ever met the guy, and 11 medical students around the interview taking place live in a room with the guy who'd lost his job in Saudi Arabia as a very experienced and wanted teacher and had to leave for mental health reasons and landed up in a mental hospital. And at the end of the hour, well, not even an hour, but the empathy between those two was just wonderful, and that kind of mattered very much to me.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah.
And so the link with Quakers, well, I think supportive, helping, um, being on the right, being good, kind. Sorry, I look horrible when I say that. But yes, I think along those lines.
Thank you.
That was an emphasis, yeah, so that's what part of it is. But I wouldn't have thought it was that simple in the sense that why not, uh, he says, nearly flippantly, Zoroastrianism. Why Quakers? What particular did you find that, as Quakers would say, spoke to your condition?
Hmm. Hmm. Well, there is a story with it, because, as I said, when I was quite young, I was into this sort of helping thing. Um, so at primary school, I said to my mum one day, I don't really like going to assembly. I can't go with all this God stuff, which I have to speak it in assembly, and it just doesn't work for me. So I don't want to go anymore. She said, fine. So I went into the cloakroom with one or two other people who I wouldn't have known were there unless I'd, you know, been allowed to be in the cloakroom instead of assembly. So I realised that there was not just you know, assembly as a kind of group worship and thing that everybody did, but there could be other ways. And then, so I said to Mum, why don't you go to church and all that kind of conversations which we would have because Mum and Dad never went,
Mm.
except for uh, marriages, deaths, and baptisms and christenings. I mean, we were all christened; it was normal, and I was christened by my uncle, who was a vicar.
Mm.
And so anyhow, basically, she said, "Well, go and find out." Just so as a primary school person, well, and early secondary school in holidays, I would just march off and go to the next church and try that out. And
Mm.
I stayed in the Baptist for a while because I liked the singing, and I liked St. Peter's Church because it was on the other side of the road to the Baptist, and it was very big and impressive. But I also liked the Baptist for Sunday school because there was a certain amount of teaching and kind of jollity amongst the kids
Mm.
and the adults there. But I did go to the Quaker Meeting House and have a look at that and be there one time. I don't remember anything about it really, but I certainly did that when I was quite young. Maybe I did it in secondary school. It was the northernmost church in the town, so I had to walk over there a bit further.
Mm.
Um, and I had regard for the Quaker meeting ever since that. It was quite different feel about it.
Mm.
Not so much ruled by the building as, well, perhaps it was. And maybe that's why it did feel different because it wasn't. It was much more like a house than
Mm.
it was like a church.
Mm.
Um, so there's that story. And then I think at secondary school we didn't have any assemblies because it was a boarding school and the time in the morning was learning and having breakfast and doing something called useful work
Mm.
around the building. So we repaired them and kept the place going. And then I think in the holiday times I probably did visit the Quaker Meeting House sometimes. So it was a very kind of vague acquaintance, really, I would say at the beginning.
Mm.
But always open. I was always open to it. Um, and then coming to Bristol, which is like a mega gap, really. Um, I was a GP in Bedminster. And how did I discover Dance Voice, which it used to be housed in the Bedminster Meeting House? But I did discover Dance Voice, and oh, I know, yeah. My goddaughter came to stay with me, and she had applied to Dance Voice for a dance course and met somebody else who also stayed with me whilst they did the course there and introduced me to it. And I became a trustee there for a while. And but that was really nothing to do with the Quakers themselves, but the fact that they could house such a lovely organisation, I thought was wonderful. And then later on, through lip reading, I met Mike Coldham and then Marion. And I also knew Marion a bit from the swimming at the lake and met up with them more frequently and got to know a bit about it. And I sort of feel I very much floated into Quakerism and just tried to be as good as I can. And eventually I find something that I want to join in on. You remember in COVID, we had a sustainability day when we were allowed to meet in people's gardens.
Oh, yes.
And I love being part of that.
Mm.
And and discussing and arranging it. And
Mm.
I was absolutely thrilled when my godson agreed to participate because I've got a cousin who was a storyteller, Hugh Lupton, and I asked him if he had any stories relating to sustainability. So he did.
Mm.
And the one about called the Blue Coat, I sent it off to Amaru, who had a brain tumor, but he was really experimenting on his mobile phone making films. And lo and behold, no text reply, no voicemail reply. Only the film came back.
Wow.
I mean, I read the text out to him to show him what it was all about. And the next thing I know, I've got a film. And there we were having that as the commencement of the afternoon online on that sustainability day. And people came to my garden for lunch. And I just felt so good about that. That was a really lovely
Mm.
intro to participating in Quaker events.
Yes. Mm.
And now we've got the Street Friendship Weekend coming along this summer.
Oh,
Mhm.
We have. That should go very well, hopefully. I hope I can get something so I can participate in that as well. So yeah, no, yeah. Uh, when did you feel? I think my next question would be: when did you feel it was time for you to become a member?
The last few months, I'm still an attender,
Mhm.
and sort of towards the end of last year, I was more and more often thinking, oh, I'll become a member, maybe. Yeah, all right then. Start thinking about that. So, I think it's I don't I criticize myself for not spending more time on Quakerly things and events, but I can help with the washing up and laying out of the coffee and stuff like that very easily because I'm there anyway. But to initiate things or to be part of a group that's moving something forward is quite unusual. I went a couple of years ago. Was it at the end of lockdown? Anyway, 2 or 3 years ago, I did the course called Becoming Friends, and it was all online.
mm.
It was before Redland had started doing in person again after the COVID episode. And I just found it so difficult to participate. I find online study just, I just don't engage. It's not me. So I tried very hard and I discussed with the people, the conveners, and I said, how could I possibly, get on with this? And I tried different tricks, putting alarms on, so I only did 10 minutes of it at home, and I don't know. Anyway, it didn't suit. So much more suitable is in person.
Mm.
Oh, I heartily agree with you there because there is, I personally think, there is nothing like a Quaker meeting in person.
Mm.
It's there's something. I know this might sound strange. It's something slightly mystical about it. That all of us together in one place, and
Yeah.
the
Mm.
the bit about the togetherness, I think, the bit about the physical togetherness
Mm.
is very much part around the Quaker ideal.
Mm.
But
Do,
again,
do
this is
you,
me.
oh, sorry. So, sorry, Ray. I really could improve my script, the screen arrangement I've got because I've got you on, I got you in full, and when Hattie speaks, I've got Hattie in full, but it means that I don't catch sight of someone's lips moving as well. Anyway, funnily enough, Hattie and I were talking about that earlier on, actually, about how the lips move before the sound comes out on these different mediums. Anyway, Hattie, you go to Redland meeting, don't you? Is that right?
But yeah, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Patsy, do you want to change your viewing screen?
Um.
Are
Well,
you
I
on a
don't. Which one do you think is best? I,
are you on a laptop or a computer screen? That sort of thing.
it's a laptop.
Top right.
Yeah.
Have you got, well, across the top, have you got a sort of taskbar with a 9 dots on a square in a square?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
I think that's the view, if you care to choose it.
But is it better in gallery or speaker?
Oh, gallery, you can see everybody.
Gallery. Okay, fine. I was on gallery originally, but
I tend
anyway,
I tend
sorry about that.
I tend to use multi-speaker because that emphasizes the people who are speaking, and then
Oh,
everybody else is in a smaller view. You can experiment, but multi-speaker is worth experimenting with.
perhaps I better not do it now. I think I've caused enough to miss.
Won't do any
Um,
harm.
yeah. No, I was going to say, Hattie, you go to Redland, which I've never been to actually, but it looked to me like it was quite a big meeting. Um, whereas Central, I mean, what would you say our numbers are, Ray? 20 to 30 usually? Yeah.
That
So
20 is becoming a go-to figure at the moment, which pleases me enormously. But there you go.
So I just wonder, how does that work out? I mean, one of the things that I like about our meetings is that you can see people's faces, which I don't think you could do with the numbers at Redland. And I wondered if you've tried different meetings and had different experiences of, what works best for you to have a few in number that, faces you could see, or more people there.
Hmm. I mean, at Redland, I prefer the early morning meetings. I like that.
Mm,
We
mm,
have them twice a month, 8:30 till
mm,
9:30, and then we have breakfast together. So there's a ongoing interest in each other's lives,
mm,
um, and we're in a small-ish circle. And I sit on the side of the circle near the window, so the window is behind me, and the light is on people's faces. And
mm,
then I can see their faces and lip read a bit better.
yeah,
But Elizabeth Whitehouse and myself, we're constantly nagging about being able to hear and background noises. So over breakfast, every knife and fork against a plate goes clonk and interrupts the next word, so we haven't understood what somebody says.
mm,
And so we've introduced having soft material on the breakfast table to try to absorb some of the clonky sounds. And we talk about the background noise problem quite often. And one at a time, please.
So,
Yeah.
so does that mean that effectively you have the main meeting is quite populous, but the earlier one probably does have less people at it. So
Definitely.
maybe the meeting you go to is much the same size as Central.
It's sort of 5 or 6 to 10 or 11 in the
Mm,
morning. And
that's
again, it's grown. And
mm,
the main meeting at 11 o'clock, which I do go to from time to time, in particular because we have a shared lunch once a month.
mm,
Um, and that, well, I'm afraid I just move around a lot. So if somebody stands up to speak, my whole body turns round to have a look at their face. It's, I mean, maybe people mind that kind of bulk of movement, but that's what I need. And fiddling around with my hearing aid, and we have got a loop system, and it's just been fixed again. And sometimes that is useful. Yeah.
mm, mm. Thank you. Okay.
And
Right.
I'm quite talkative, so I like the advices and queries. I like that a lot.
Mm,
And when I had a good old read of it, I crossed out the word God everywhere and I wrote good instead. And it all
mm,
works. It all works.
yeah,
Mm,
mm.
that felt comfortable to me.
Mm.
Yeah, it's good.
Mm. And it's quite interesting being with Quakers of uh, different levels of knowledge. I mean, that some Quakers' knowledge of the history of Quakers is phenomenal. They just have that kind of mind which absorbs names and venues and places, and other Quakers who go and visit different Quaker meeting houses around the country as a part of their holiday. Um, uh, Quakers turn up all over the place. I think it's great that we mention that we are Quakers these days,
Mm.
and that it matters to us to talk about and mention. So I like that. I mean, for instance, standing out as a vigil outside the Elbit company up in Filton.
Mm.
Um, and I mean, people are so active in Quakers in different ways and share their news. So some people are on the WhatsApp group and keep up to date about what's happening with Elbit
Mm.
and the protest as well. I mean, I've caught up on that, but um, and I feel like an idiot for not knowing. But yeah, it's thank goodness that other people do keep their fingers on the pulse and do mind and participate very much in it. And I admire a lot of people in the Quaker family group meeting. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll get the language one day.
Yes, we can only do what we can do, and that might sound rather trite, but the it is we have other interests outside of Quakers in that sense also. So we have to sometimes, even if you're tired, like looking around at the people here, I think we are. And you still have to prioritize your time into what you want to do and what interests you, and uh, what I suppose the spirit demands of us. Are there any things I think that you would say you would have an interest in, which is kind of Quaker, if it's either Quaker related or or other religious related type of things? Do you think? What I'm trying to emphasize here in my garrulous way is to say what interests you about Quakers and religion in that way.
Values. I think being open about the values. Um, yeah, and articulating under the headings that are so important, and yeah, that's the most important aspect for me, because I don't really think about the stories from the Bible as, I mean, I know they do illustrate characteristics which I would agree with and support, but it's not a way that I think really, I suppose. But to have the headings, I mean, I'm probably going to miss one out because I think kindness is one of, well, I would like it to be one of them, but it isn't. Truth, justice, simplicity, peace. There's something missing, isn't there? And sustainability. But I mean, I like that. That helps me think
Mm.
and focus. Yes, I miss the singing because music has been a huge part of my life. And in my gap year, for instance, I was staying at home, which is halfway between Oxford and Reading. So I joined the Oxford Bach Choir and the Reading Bach Choir and did their, or whatever it was called, and did their concerts. And the concerts were held, I mean, in Reading, I think they were held in churches and the cathedral. And in Oxford, they were held in the Bodleian Library and other buildings, no doubt. And some of them are, I mean, obviously big works like Matthew Passion but not all. So Walt Whitman's, I can't remember the name of the piece, but uh, anyway, other pieces which were not religious, but um, appealed to me as well. But yeah, that's because I like singing. And the other day, I said about I was missing singing in Quaker meetings and togetherness, because to me singing is very much about something together. Yes, I pom around the house and I sing, but so I said how I felt like singing happy birthday to a new baby who'd been brought for the first time into the meeting. And so the elder said, well, why not then? Looking straight at me. So I did a weensy little song saying, welcome to the world, you know. But yeah, so music is a big part of my life. And so that is a bit that I miss. But it's not the essence, and it's not banned, and so it's not proscribed. So I can go ahead and do it.
We once had a meeting at Friend, how could I get there in a minute, Central, where we had kind of a talent evening. And you'd be surprised at how many people sing or play a musical instrument or something like that. It was wonderful. Had some person who played the violin and they played a bit of Bach. And I was, oh.
Yeah.
Because I love Bach. And, and that was it. Because, yeah, Quakers are very musical. Quakers are very, lots of talents. So feel free to sing, friend, whenever you wish. But there you go.
Marianne, you're on mute.
I'm not.
Marianne.
Yes, Marion wanted to...
Sorry, maybe I shouldn't be interrupting, but I just remember that there was a time when there was some singing sessions before meeting. It's 10:15 or something for half an hour. And I can't remember how often or how long for. It obviously sort of didn't last forever because it's not on the map right now. But there's no reason why we shouldn't do it again.
Yeah.
Lovely idea. Yeah. I don't know. I can't see any reason why not at all.
Just take somebody to organise it.
Okay.
So,
I'm going to get under the table at this point.
Upsy, we need an audience.
I'd be happy to be an audience. Yeah, I think that would be good. Yeah.
Yeah, we find ways of joining in.
Yes, yeah, there always are.
Oh,
I haven't offered to help with tea or coffee because I've had a mobility problem for some time, and so I'm basically one-handed, and I find I cause more trouble than I do help. So carrying cups is definitely a mistake in my case.
not everybody has to do that. As David said, you do what you can.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So what else was I
yeah.
getting?
I had a whole list of questions, but in the furore of the last day or so, I haven't got them. So I'm having to work off the top of my head. I do apologise. Would anyone else like to ask Hattie anything? Go on, David. I can tell you're trying to do so.
I'm smiling and listening. Yeah, well, I can see there's obviously a strong connection between the work that you are called to do as a doctor, and being a Quaker, and you've spoken on that, but maybe you can say a little bit more about. Yeah.
I think I can, because I mean I mentioned that my uncle was a vicar, but actually I didn't know how strong our family roots were. My dad was from a Unitarian background, and mum was a cropper, and they make paper up near Kendal.
Yeah.
And I've got 21 or had 21 cousins. Um, and one cousin did a course in Lancaster about Quakerism in business, I think, or in the locality, and wrote an essay and shared that with me. And another cousin who is now the head of the paper company, he's written a book called The Leaves We Write On, and it is a fabulous company, and they're very as uh, not paternalistic, but very caring about their employees, and they have a an institute, the Bryce Institute in Kendal in Burneside, which has promoted education for the people working in the company, and always been trying to be a fair employee and things like that. And it was really interesting to see how far back the Quaker influence went there. So I guess that Mum brought this with her into our family home. The I didn't know that how much Quakerism influenced the development of the paper mill and other businesses in Kendal. But now, having read a bit of The Leaves We Write On and seeing how influential the Quakers were there, started a bank, several businesses, and kind of attributed to starting as a yeoman. Well, these days you wouldn't make much money farming, but Quakers renowned for being frugal and collectively supportive of each other, so that they made connections from Westmoreland to Liverpool and Manchester as on a business level, and so children would have the opportunity to go and stay with someone else so for instance, a son as a teenager went to try his hand at business in Liverpool and no doubt stayed with Quakers there, almost like members of a family, and quite clear that the kind of friendship and support on a wider level, not just in a village or town, was a lot to do with early membership of Quakers. I mean, in the 1600s, joining one particular cropper wanted to get married to a woman, Sarah Cobham, and in order to get married, had to convert to becoming a Quaker. So he did. And the book says that the family was less than angelic adherents to the Quaker way of life, but it was in the end a big influence. So the Peter Cropper, who had married Ian, had to be reprimanded for some of his behaviour. His two sons got into trouble with the law a bit, but on the whole, it was a very good influence and helped to move the atmosphere in all the businesses that they set up, including gunpowder manufacture and ships going over to Barbados. There's no mention of slavery, but they brought back sugar. But it was part of culture, wasn't it, Angela? Yeah. Can't hear you.
It would undoubtedly. I've just read a really big study about the slave trade, and all white-skinned humans were involved, and it was totally. There's a Turner painting of slaves being thrown in to this. It's yeah. I've been reading a lot about the slave trade, and it's horrendous. I think the British government needs to apologise for its role in the slave trade, because so many people were in it, and it was nothing to be pleased about. It was disgusting. appalling, revolting that white-skinned people, could treat black-skinned people the way they did. Absolutely appalling. Sorry, it just is.
Agree. Thanks, Angela.
Mm. But we have to try to learn from what we did wrong in the past. And I think one of the mistakes we were making was not seeing black-skinned people as human. And I think we still fail very much to see certain kinds of people as fully human. And that, of course, is still going on today. Which now that I'm feeling pretty old, I feel it happens even just being an old person. I've been really discovering that I have got a lower profile when I'm trying to get things done. When things don't work in the house and I'm trying to get them sorted, I find that once they realise I'm old, I don't do quite so well with getting it done. Whereas in the past, my expectation was that if you were old and frail, people looked out for you more. But I don't think that this is quite happening. I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm going a bit off target here. You were going to tell us a bit more about the connection between your being a Quaker and being a GP, Hattie.
I think I think it's quite simple, even if it didn't appear so. But I think it is just I get drawn, and sometimes I land in trouble by being drawn to people who are troubled, and I feel I could help there, or I could help out. I mean, I've intervened in fights sometimes, and I've crossed the road from a group of friends as we were walking along. I could see two people going to fight, and I just crossed and I just yelled at the top of my voice, "For God's sake, stop it!" or whatever I yelled. And I think they were so utterly surprised that they stopped. Another time I was in South Africa driving along and I saw a man raising his hand like this to go and hit a woman. He was taller and bigger and older. And I just turned round the car as soon as I possibly could and came back to see if she was okay. And of course she was suspicious because I was white and she was black. And she made out that she couldn't understand a word I was speaking. And I said, well, I just had to come back and see that you're okay because I thought that he was going to hit you. And she realized where I was coming from and said, well, yes, that's right, because I refused sex with him. And so we had a little conversation. But stuff like that, it's so in me. And there are times when I get tangled up with people who are completely unhelpable, you could say, because it's so ingrained in their behavior that they aren't going to change. And whatever I do to help them is still not going to be enough, or it's going to be wrong or something. And my lovely friends help me to extract myself from such difficult times. But there you go. Yeah. Yeah, but there's the helping role. I just think it comes naturally. And I know that I've been helped so much by other people, and I believe that what goes round comes round. So if I've been helped even in another country at another time, and then somebody here, it's quite obvious that they can't. I mean, for instance, I went on a course the other day, and by Friday morning, when we had to leave the premises, it was pretty obvious that there were a couple of people who were not very well, and there was no way they could get on a train and travel to London that day. So I said, well, come in my car and I'll take you home if you can travel in the car. So they stayed for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and I took them to the station on Tuesday morning. And I mean, I'm not saying it was no trouble, but it was obviously the thing to do. And I mean, I was impressed. Sorry, another story, but I went to Latvia and some years ago, I would say 5 or 6 years ago, and people were talking about the hard times when the Russians left, because all the property in Riga, for instance, because it was Regan residents I was talking to, the Russians had failed to, I say the Russians, that's what they kind of their way of looking at it, but a lot of property couldn't be maintained whilst the Russians were occupying the place. They couldn't get belongings to paint places or to repair the stonework or anything, and after when the Russians left, then there was so much property that had to be renovated really thoroughly that there was an era that I can't remember if they called it exactly like this, but anyway, something like the shared bedroom era. So people, there was social, very informal as well, housing arranged, so that people could have their houses repaired and fixed. And I just thought, wow, that's amazing. And I just wonder how it was arranged in Iceland when Iceland had the financial crash and social housing increased from, I don't know, 10 to 20% up to 60 to 70%. How on earth did it suddenly get converted to social housing? I've no idea. No idea. But it strikes me. Oh, I've just remembered something. You know, my dad, even though he didn't talk about it very often, he was a prime mover in the international co-ownership movement, ICOM. And he did talk about it a bit, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't know about it. But he was involved in pressurizing the government to change the law to make it possible for workers to take over a factory when the factory failed. So he was involved in Fakenham, where there was a shoe factory, I think, and the shoe factory was going to go bust, and the workers said, no, we'll run it as a co-op. And so that the change in law made that possible to do legally in a more smooth way. So I think there was that around in the conversations in our house. Yeah. So is that to do with GP? I really decided to be a GP because I asked myself, what can I pass exams in? Uh, what am I good at? What do I like? So that helped me choose my A levels, and I like people. I'm good at making things and mending things, and um, I can pass exams in science, but history and English is a bit tricky. So that's I said, okay, right, well, I'll be a what was it going to be? Occupational therapist. Mum went off and looked at the OT school in Oxford because it was the top notch. And we had our usual weekly phone call, and she said, Hat, you wouldn't get on with them. They're all colonels' daughters. So I said, okay, I trust you, Mum. I'm not going to be an OT. But I like very much the idea of becoming an occupational therapist. Even when I was a medical student, I was drawn to rheumatology, and I loved watching what the OTs did with people and how they adjusted the houses and the or kit that people live their lives with to facilitate an easier life. And then after giving up the idea of becoming an occupational therapist, I thought, well, what's similar? Physio. So I had a look at the leaflets in the career section at school. And luckily I did the useful work there. So I got all the post for them and organized it and filed it and stuff like that. So I knew where to find the info. And I looked and I said, whoa, this is too hard. It looks to me like a medical course and then slapped on top is the physio. It's no, 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 no. Give me the medical course first. And if I want to be a physio at the end of that, then I'll change career. I suppose I didn't use the word career at that time. Perhaps I did. But anyway, so that's how I actually went into medicine. I went to see the local GP and have a chat to him about, what's it like being a doctor? So he said, do come in. And he offered me a sherry.
Yeah.
And he had his elbow on the mantelpiece. and basically tried to persuade me that it was totally in for a dig for a woman to become a doctor. So I listened for a few minutes and tried to make that visit to him very short. I wasn't having that. Somebody had introduced me to the Peckham experiment, which was a health centre, really, which had a ballroom in it and a swimming pool, and doctors and dentists and nurses worked there. And this was pre-NHS, and you paid, I don't know, 2 and 6 for your family to join, and that would mean that you could have the opinion of a doctor and the services in that building for a weekly payment and such like. And I just thought that was fantastic. So I went to the library and I said, I want to read about this. And they, some weeks later, got back to me, and they'd found a copy of a book called The Peckham Experiment in Loughborough, where the backup the sort of dungeon of National Library books was kept, and they'd dug out a copy for me. But it was wonderful reading and very much influenced my thinking about what medicine's for. It's for people. Yeah.
I can just imagine a scenario there of, if it's got ballrooms and all that lot in it. Excuse me, doctor, I can't waltz with this gammy knee. But there you go. Next year, we are to be presented with the developments of the Big Red Book, which a group of people have been told, 6 years ago now, 6 or 8 years ago now, to go away and do developmental work, ask people and do all these types of things, and come up with suggestions or comments or type of things like that. Where do you think, where would you think that Quakers are going within the next few years? That is, if we are going to be an organized religion, with the slowly losing numbers of all religious groups are having less and less type of things like that. Have you any views on that wide subject?
I think I do think Quakerism is appealing more because it's well, there must be lots of reasons, and everybody's reason will be different for trying it out or coming to see. But I think we're welcoming and open, and I think kind of the non-pomposity about it. And I know it's nice going to a church with lots to see on the walls and sculptures and paintings and huge windows and stuff like that. But I think people are more inclined to a sort of family feel. I think we have to be aware that I don't think all religions are shrinking. I think the Muslim area it's got some wonderful characteristics, and I believe that that is growing. I may be wrong, but I would say that over the next few years, and the Red Book is already focused on it, but is about being clear what our values are, and sticking up for them and being able to support each other in speaking about it and articulating our beliefs and acting on them. I think that is so important because the power and the strength of IT and bad social media, and I mean, so many things are advertised as wham bam, get this, do that, and it's I mean, I have some kind of skill in just de-advertising myself. I just don't listen to it and don't engage in it, and I don't have to switch the TV off. I just switch me off until the next bit of the program comes on. But it's just and there's so much to be done about environment. I I think that the Quakers can be influential, and really, I think it's really important that we give ourselves credit and do engage with and find ways to engage with people who are acting and behaving in ways which unconsciously or consciously are quite wrecking of humanity and community. But I think we've got a lot to say about that.
Thank you. The amusing thing I heard a few years ago was when I said to someone I was a Quaker, and they said, "Oh, what do they do?" And the next question was, "Isn't that didn't you start in America?"
Uh-huh.
And you go, "No." It's a misconception which some people have, that. But there you go. Anyway, I've been rambling on in my
Can I
usual.
ask Can I ask a naughty question?
Do.
Is there anything that annoys you about Quakers?
Well, I have heard annoying things. Like one person said that she once came to a Quaker meeting. I think she probably came a few more times than that, but she was really put off by the holier than thou, and they wanted me to participate in all these campaigns and go and protest with them. And that really put her off. So it sounded like somebody wasn't really listening to where she was coming from. But it's so rare that I hear stuff like that. No, I don't think so. I mean, what I notice is people are so different from each other, and actually that's so important. So, the people who can rabbit on about history, well, I can't. And there are times when yes, I think the difficulty for me, and I suppose it still is how do Quakers work? So, for instance, I remember being told to, oh dear, I don't know why I've got a phone call. I tried to stop that. Oh God. Hello, what's this? Oh no. Right. But so actually now what we're trying to do is say hello to people and inquire, have you been here often, or have you been to a Quaker meeting before? So actually trying to avoid this difficulty when people don't know, and I was suddenly told we don't speak now. We're already in meeting or something like that. And it was said with such sharpness. Oh, hello? Yes, but I can't talk now. Can you call me in half an hour? Bye. Um, the bewilderment about what was I coming into, I think that we are addressing that, and I like that.
We have got some very good little leaflets, but I've only seen a couple of them, to give people when they come in. I don't know if we need to order some more, if it's just I don't know where they are. But, the couple that I had, I thought were really good. And
Photocopy.
yes, yeah, I could, yes. But it definitely made a difference. A couple of people who were rather uncertain about coming in, the fact that I could hand them a thing to hold on to, as well as explaining a bit as well. But they felt much more confident going into the meeting, holding this, because which they could catch up on a bit while they were experiencing the silence. And
Yes, I think it's finding out.
yeah,
I know what you mean, because when I started coming to Quaker meetings, it looked like a kind of seamless machine where everybody seemed to know their role. And I had no idea, how was it that magically two people shook hands after meeting? Um, Magically this appeared, magically that appeared. And when I sort of started asking questions, it turned into me organizing a meeting where everybody had to come and explain themselves, all the different committees and all the different roles. And it was really useful. So
Wow.
I think it helped other people as well.
yes, that's an idea. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was working with the children and young people's group, especially at yearly meeting, a lot of the children were asking that, why does this happen? Why does that happen? And all this lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
When people come in. And so I and another friend at the time done a little playlet where the person who was a new person coming in, and it was all how things go wrong. And so the person at the door offered them lots of leaflets and said, have you been here before? Oh, you need this leaflet and that leaflet and that leaflet. And so this new person had all of these leaflets when they went to go in. And
Comical.
someone would stand up and blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the meeting, they were offered a cup of tea and a biscuit. And someone says, oh, you're new here. Do you want to see Mr. So-and-so? And they would go off again. And the person was standing there with these leaflets. And everybody was chatting with everybody else. And they didn't know what was going on. And so this person very quickly left the meeting and never came back again. And the children absolutely loved that. And so they said, we want to do this to the rest of yearly meeting. And I tried to get that to happen, but obviously, because yearly meeting is so planned that there was no space left for them to do it in, but it was something which I think they took back to their meetings and said, this was fun, this should be happening. And that way we got introduced to a lot more meetings than we would have done, because the young people said, we don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's I do think that, and people poke their nose in one day and just see what it's about. But if they don't see anything going on, it's just they're all sitting so quietly. What's it all about? I don't know. They don't seem to say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions to Hattie, friends? Yes.
Just encourage me to join.
Well, did you say you have you applied for membership?
Oh, no, no,
No?
no.
Then why not friend, he says, sitting here? Why not membership?
I haven't looked online to see what form I fill in, or I mean, I expect I probably would talk to Marion about it.
Yeah, yeah. An elder or supporting friend
Yes.
to
Yeah.
champion you in that respect. And then you apply to the clerk of area meeting, which is Kathy now. or what's the other? Deputy clerk.
Oh yeah, they're sharing it, are they?
Yeah,
Is it?
yes.
Barney.
Barney Smith. Thank you, Marion.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those two. And you'll be appointed. The two friends will be appointed to come and see you and chat to you about why you want to be a member.
Yeah, that bit I understand. Yeah.
And and you, yes, and you can become a member.
Say that again.
And you can become a member, uh, be spoken to about different roles, which
What,
which is
what,
always needed.
what Ray is trying not to say is that you will immediately be offered a large number of jobs, which you will feel obliged to take up.
I don't think
No,
so.
no.
Oh
Only
dear.
one, maybe.
I don't in Redland. I don't think people wait for people to become members before they offer them jobs.
Quite.
Um, but
Or
the bit you missed out, which is the rather frightening bit, is that when the two people have finished talking to you, then they go away and they write a report.
Oh yeah.
And I think it used to be they just wrote a report, you didn't see it. I think these days they have to show it to you in case there's something totally wrong or you absolutely want to really not happy. And then it gets read out to the area meeting.
Oh
And
my.
then they either say, yes, welcome friend, or they say that horrible phrase that Quakers sometimes have, that name would not occur to me, meaning we don't think so.
A neighbour.
That name would not occur to me when people are
Haven't
being
heard that one
suggested.
before. That's
Or they just say, I think they should wait a while and go to other meetings before they're let in. Um, I mean, that very, very, very rarely happens, but it does happen occasionally. It usually happens when somebody kind of comes along and at their first Quaker meeting, they say, how do I join? And it's usually felt that they don't know enough about the organization to know if they really do want to join it. But you know, I think it's a bit quite daunting to know that all your stuff is going to be read out in front of loads of other people.
yes.
And then you're supposed to get a present of a book. It used to be a copy of Quaker Faith and Practice, because there weren't that many other books. I think now it's, you know, you choose a book, and are hopefully presented with it in your own meeting and welcomed in your own meeting.
or you can,
Mm.
as our friend David is, remain an attender.
Yes, you're welcome to choose.
It was quite interesting a few years ago when I was co-clerk for a while, and as usual, a great dearth of people to do jobs, and some jobs which only members were supposed to do.
Sorry. Please carry on. I'm so sorry.
Shall I carry on?
Carry on then.
I've lost my thread now. Yeah, there's certain jobs only Quakers are supposed to do, like sort of elders, overseers, whatever they're called these days, treasurer, clerk, etc. Although I think things are more flexible because you just need to have the right person and so on. So anyway, because we decided to have a little survey about membership and why people didn't join, and had a whole variety of answers. And some was, oh, I didn't know you could. Tell me how.
Yes.
Some was, I'm not going to join because I know I'll be asked to do 100 jobs and I don't have time. And then there were others that said, I don't believe in membership. Early Quakers didn't have membership, so I'm not joining. I'm here, but I'm not joining. And then there were lots of other kind of in between things, but those are all the kind of, there were lots and lots of different reasons for for not joining, and anyway, it was useful because on that occasion, then there were at least 3 or 4 people who said, "Oh, I didn't know you could. Tell me how." And so, that increased the pool by about sort of 5% of people who could be asked to do heavy jobs. But now I think they can be asked to do heavy jobs, whatever their membership status is, because we can't wait around without a treasurer. So I think our last but one treasurer, I think, was Judy Nile, who wasn't a member, but I think we had to write to Friend's House to say, we want to appoint Judy Nile as treasurer. She isn't a member and she doesn't see the point in becoming a member. But she will be supported by a member, namely her mother, and we have every reason to believe she will do a good job and won't run off with the money. So I think things are more flexible because you can't just wait around until somebody's come to a personal decision or not.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to kind of be able to kind of separate that out, really.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Thank you.
Right. Well, I can safely say again, friends, that we have had an interesting and amusing hour in the company of you all, and especially Hattie today. Next week.
I have to go, sorry. So
do.
Okay. See you next time.
See you, man.
Thank you, Hattie.
Okay. Meow.
Before I'm sat here on my own. Next week, which will be interesting, friends, because it's Patsy. And it said,
yes,
once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, challenging stereotypes and in praise of social learning.
Great.
Sounds very posh.
Wow. I say to that.
sounds good, Patsy.
It's a long title, Patsy. It has to fit in a window on YouTube.
Yes.
We can talk about that.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I'll think about that one. Okay.
Okay,
next week. Great.
Well,
thank you, Hattie.
I look out my window and it's not raining, which is a good sign. Go out and enjoy the day.
Nice. Thank you ever so much, Hattie. It was great.
Oh, you're welcome. That's
Thank you.
challenging. Right.